Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Sleepy Holographic. I'm so glad you're here. Today is going to be a very intense video. um, a couple months ago, I saw this listing on Facebook Marketplace for Spirit Halloween decor. That's all it said. And this was the only picture. And I was like, what are you selling? So I messaged them and asked if it was still available, and they left me on red. And I was like, well, okay, then it's either not available or they just don't know how to use Facebook. And I just moved on. And then they relisted it and they said Spirit Halloween decor. And in the little description section, it said this cardboard mausoleum thing. So I messaged again and I said, is this available? And they said, no, someone's going to come get it. And I said, okay, that's fine. If that changes, please let me know. I will come get it immediately. And like 10, 15 days went past and I knew that I had no chance. But then surprisingly, they were like, actually, it is available. Come get it. And I was like, great, I will come immediately. And they told me that they had rented a truck in order to get it and that it was in pieces. And they sent me this photo of their garage, which I really should have paid more attention to because I thought that looked pretty small. He said, oh, I just keep it where my car needs to be parked, so it needs to go. And I was like, okay. So this is actually the picture that my husband took when he went to go get all of this cardboard. It's a little more accurate. You can see the car there and how much cardboard this really, really is. But I was already determined that I wanted this really badly, so we did it anyway. Come to the truck. It filled the 20-foot U-Haul, and when I brought it home, it filled my apartment entirely. I have a one-bedroom apartment, and this filled the entire living room, the entire kitchen, the entire storage area that I have. And I had cleaned out said storage area for this to go into. I had gotten stuff out of the way and moved everything. And it filled a significant portion of the bedroom. So basically, my whole apartment was this giant cardboard nightmare. There was nowhere to sit down. There was nowhere to cook or do laundry or anything like that. There was barely a very tiny little space to walk around from one room to the next. And I was just overwhelmed. I was like, what have I done? This is everywhere and I don't know what to do. It's there was no space available to even start building. I had no idea what any of the pieces were. I had no instructions because they're not available anywhere on the internet. The person who had bought it from Spirit didn't have instructions, and that's why they hadn't, you know, didn't have it built. They had just they had just decided it took up too much space in the garage and they were like, well, we don't need to keep it, so here you go. And yeah, so it began to be the most difficult project I had ever tried to do. It was like a giant 1,000-piece puzzle with no box to look at and absolutely no idea what piece went where because there's no obvious corners or edges. So if you are for some reason attempting to build this mausoleum, I hope that my video is helpful for you. I'm sure that's like one person on the internet ever who is going to do that. But good luck if you are. It was quite the adventure. It took two of us adults about 115 hours of actual building just to try and make it work. And it was good that there was two of us because myself and my husband, we had to like hold up a lot of pieces together to try and hold them together. You can't build it flat because it's a 3D object. You have to build it upright with nothing to hold it up against. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah. So, day one, we began by trying to sort pieces, kind of getting a like with like situation, trying to put what I assumed were columns with columns, trying to put these triangular roof pieces all sitting together. And then all of these plain, non printed cardboard boxes intersected like a grid pattern to go on the inside of base pieces. And so finding all the base pieces, which were a darker black than the walls or the roof, um, was like the first step we tried to do was to match a base piece with the plain grid cardboard that would go inside it to give it strength to hold up all the weight. Um, we spent the first 2 days just doing that. And then I realized that it was all wasted because the entire mausoleum was far too tall for my apartment. And we wouldn't be using the base pieces because they just added height. And instead, we actually had to cut down all of the walls and make them shorter in order to make it fit in our apartment. So then we took all the base pieces apart again after we put all of them together. We took them all apart and made them flat and stacked them in the other room as small and compact as we could, placing heavy furniture on top of it to try and keep it from going anywhere. These large stacks of plain cardboard and the base pieces, because I really didn't know what else to do. If I was wrong and we needed them, I would still need them, and but we couldn't start building anything with them because the whole thing was already too tall for our space. And I did not buy this mausoleum to just hold on to it or just to store it or to use it someday. I bought it to put in my house year round to play in, basically, for myself, for my kids, as a basically a playhouse. And we've just been calling it the castle. Once we sorted everything that we could, we did put some things together, like these columns in the back. They are, like they were flat. I put them together just because I thought that I would start building things. I didn't really know what else to do. It was an obvious piece, whereas nothing else was. And this wall, we put the window in it, a couple things like that. We started just building random stuff. Finally, we began to be able to put together some of the pieces of actual walls. Every wall had a long, tall column connecting both wall pieces, which had a flat part, and then the walls that were the mausoleum shelves, as you can see in front of you, those had these small white cardboard rectangles to delineate the shelves that stuck in with the little tabs. And then they connected to each other at a 90-degree angle to make a standing wall. And this is the first time we actually created something standing. You can also see that we have moved all of the cardboard that was flat out of the way, all of the base pieces out of the way as much as we could. And now we actually had floor space to begin to build the walls. This was by now probably 5 days in, and we did not have a standing wall. And I mean full 10, almost 12-hour days, just working straight through as long as we could to do this. But finally, we got some walls going. Once we had a wall built, we could finally start attaching to it. The interior of the two walls had this cutout. The middle marble looking column did not go all the way up. It stopped um, about like a foot, maybe a little more from the top. And that is where the roof supports are going to fit in. Um, I had it upside down at first, so it was confusing trying to figure out how to put it together the right way once we started adding more walls, but we did finally figure it out. And now here we have what the other end of the opposite side of that wall looked like. Mind you, we did have to cut this down on the bottom to fit in the house. So we cut off, I think, about 19 inches. You'll have to measure your own roof if you're doing this. Um, Once we put the pieces together, the back side of this wall is blank. This becomes the alcove with like a medieval looking arches inside of it. So here I'm showing it to you once we've built it so you can see the archway that it needs on the inside. You do have to have the archway up for this to work, so you need the side walls that this wall connects to first. Once you have that, the blue and the white part connect basically like a zipper and just sit inside. They don't tuck into anything. And then as I was putting up these walls, I realized that there were several pieces that had been underneath them that did not go to the main mausoleum. I took this picture of Spirit Halloween last season, and several pieces were from this. There was dead fake grass, there was this square part with all these tombstones, there was just the flat roof of one of these external buildings, but no other pieces of those buildings. So I took a whole nother day taking all of those pieces that I could identify as not belonging to this mausoleum and breaking them down flat and discarding them because I simply do not have anywhere to put them. And for some reason, they were more beat up than the rest of everything. It looked like people had walked on them, probably, and stuff. So, yeah, had to get rid of those. I'm sorry, everyone. Now, finally, after almost a week of building pieces and discarding pieces and sorting pieces, we began to actually put walls together. Once one wall was up, we could actually build the next wall and attach them together and then do and keep going. The mausoleum is an octagon, and after building all 8 walls, well, 4 of the walls are actually archways. So 4 walls we built and 4 archways. After building them all, I realized that it would not fit in the space that I have. So, I had to do some creative changing. I decided to take out 2 of the archways, which were directly across from each other, and make it into a hexagon. And that sounded like a great solution for the problem of the whole thing didn't fit. You'll see here that I have um, no space whatsoever between the wall and the doorway. And this is how we go through the house. This is the main living room. Like, this whole thing is the living room. So there's no space um, between this weird indent thing in our ceiling and to get to the doors from the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen, everywhere. So I decided to make it a hexagon, and this became extremely problematic when we got to the roof. But before that, we were really excited because after like a whole week of building this, we finally had, you know, walls standing, attaching to each other. Kind of looks like a maze. I loved it. Now, because of the indents, octagon is the overall shape, but those alcoves that have the Gothic window arches looking things, they mean that it's an octagon with two 90-degree angle triangles pointed inward, creating basically a square to walk through. Um, or not a square, a plus shape to walk through. This was drastically altered by my having removed 2 arches and made a much tighter inside. There's no room to stand in the middle and look around like super easily. The 2 pointing inward corner arches, or not arches, the 2 pointing inward 90-degree angle mausoleum shelf pieces nearly touch. I have about 1 foot of space between them. And yes, I do walk through that 1 foot of space 100 times a day to get to the kitchen. So as you can see in these two pictures, this is what it looks like without the arch removed. I was actually really lucky that the walls would, in fact, fit together without the arches because the arches stick inside the columns, holding the entire thing together, um, basically like um, they sit on the top and the walls sit on the bottom. So sticking two walls together, I was not sure at all would work. But I was fortunate that it does work, and it works because they're not actually connected. But once the roof is on, the whole structure becomes connected. So that was just really luck, honestly, that I was able to change the shape in this way to make it fit in the house. Um, and as you can see in these arch pictures as well, like I have cut off a significant amount of the bottom there to make the whole thing short enough to fit in my house, compared to the original picture of the thing at Spirit Halloween. I wish I didn't have to do that, but it is what it is, and now this will get used every single day, unlike just sitting around in storage if it was too tall. Now, at this point, I finally realized that there were some pieces that we were not going to be able to use. There was this round cupola that goes on top with the stained glass windows. I actually discarded the Spirit Halloween logo that sits in the mouth of this because I think it is weird to put it on top of the castle I'm gonna have in my living room year round. But also, it would never have fit. I could not cut the castle down anymore, and this was like another 3 feet of space. It obviously wouldn't fit. But I didn't want to get rid of it because it's beautiful. And someday I might want to build the whole octagonal, admittedly shorter, but octagonal um castle mausoleum, somewhere that's not this apartment, in which case I could put it on the top. And so I took every single piece of it, made them flat, put them together, and wrapped it all in uh, just plastic wrap so that I could put it away in my storage room and they would all be connected to each other without having to like tape it. And since I didn't have any kind of container that could hold that, at this point in time, I finally realized something else would not fit, and that was my dining room table and chairs. So I gave them away. And then we finally were able to move on to making the roof. Now that we had all the pieces of the walls put together, and the two pieces, the two arches that we weren't going to use, I put back in the storage room. I gathered all the roof pieces that I could find and began assembling them. There's two types of roof pieces. There is a triangular rounded piece, and then there is also a square piece with a window on it. And there's four of each. And this is when I had a breakdown and also burst into tears because as we tried to put the roof pieces on after building them, there was absolutely no way. They depend on each other for stability to make the whole structure stay together as one thing. So we put the two triangular roof pieces down into the columns of the interior mausoleum shelves. And those fit great because that's where they go. They sit over those archways on the other side of that mausoleum shelf piece on the outside. And then I realized, the next piece should definitely be one of these square pieces with the windows. And when we attached the square piece with the window to the rounded arch piece, the angle was wrong because I had changed it from an octagon to a hexagon. Uh, the angle is different. And I foolishly thought, okay, we'll just take two of these triangular pieces and put them on, we'll connect them to some of these square pieces, and, they'll just make too large of a roof, but we'll just make two pieces of a roof that won't connect to each other and stick it on the top of this. And that did not work at all. Not only would it not hold together, it was way too huge and did not fit and would not stay on the mausoleum. So we did some math and some crying, and my brother and his friend came over and they helped hold up pieces while I visualized it and sketched it out and tried to figure out. I knew there must be a way to do this, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And finally, it occurred to me that the square pieces just needed to lay on top of each other without connecting, leaving holes in the roof, which was amazing. I was so excited when I figured that out, and we finally got it put together. As I was trying to make this hexagon work, I realized that the problem with the whole thing was I had put away that cupola, and there's no top to the roof of this without it. So we improvised by taking one of the base pieces, cutting it to the exact shape, folding it into a square, and connecting the two pieces of the roof with box tape. I know that I will have to take this apart if I ever take this down and want to build the full thing. I hopefully can just cut the tape and leave it on there so it doesn't rip the decorated pattern printed on the cardboard. Additionally, I then had to take some of the pieces that would have connected all the square roof pieces together, would have connected them to the triangular roof pieces, I mean. I had to take three of those and put them together and make a giant cross brace in order to hold up the square pieces of the roof. This is not how they were intended to be used, but fortunately, they were the right length for the angle to work, so three of them together could span the entire, now hexagonal mausoleum roof. And then finally, after almost 2 weeks, the whole mausoleum was built. And I flattened all the pieces that we didn't use and put them behind my couch. And eventually, over 6 or 8 weeks, we cut them up and put them in our recycling bin and got rid of them. And there were several pieces that I kept at the end. There was that whole extra side piece of the mausoleum, which had like two tall columns and a round sticking out roof part. I kept that. Someday I might want to put it on there. Um, I kept the arches that we didn't use. And then the inside of the roof has a very large square with a circle in it that held a fan with a projection on it at the Spirit Halloween. Those things did not come with this cardboard set. Um, but I couldn't have used them anyway because I changed the shape. The inside of this should have four stained glass windows and that square um, kind of covering the ugliness of the roof, frankly, and that all goes above the part where you would walk through. Um, Someday, hopefully, I'll have a space bigger that I can put it all together for. So I'm sorry if that's the part you were missing. That's also the part that's really hard to see online because everyone who filmed themselves in a spirit Halloween and put it on the internet did not take photos of the top of the structure. They filmed themselves walking through it, so you can barely see it at the top of a bunch of videos. But once you have put together the roof, where those pieces go makes sense. Like you can see it from a building standpoint. So if you build this by some chance, which I doubt anyone is going to do, please let me know in a comment how building that roof insert part went because just building the roof was hard enough. And that finally completes this stunning, gorgeous, amazing mausoleum, which I am calling a castle, which I mean also kind of has really old church vibes, you know what I mean? And I absolutely love it. It is stunning. It is now my living room, and I have no regrets. I did dig myself out of the cardboard nightmare, and it looks absolutely incredible, and I couldn't be happier. I will now put music over as I just show you what it looks like, including lit up with the windows. I hope to put battery candles in it at some point and can't wait to decorate it for Halloween. So I just love it. And then just for fun at the end here, I decided to make a home office out of the weird triangular space between the wall that contained one of those open archway alcoves and my kitchen. And that's actually where I edit all my videos from. And also, you know, it's the home office where my husband works. So we had to get rid of the dividing walls that made his own office before in order to fit in this castle. But now he gets to work from a castle, so it's better. And I also enjoy working from it instead of on the couch. And that will be it for this video. Thank you for joining me today for this crazy castle building experience. I hope that you enjoyed it. You will definitely see this castle again in the future since, as I said, it is a permanent feature in my living room. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of it down below. Please like, subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.